T-Soft shoots it, deflected right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tendy Talk. I am your host Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week I talked to the man, the myth, the legend, the movie star, Kane Van Gate. But before I talk to Kane, let's take a quick break. Start it off. Kane, thanks for joining me today. It's great to have you. Good to talk to you, even though you're a Blues fan. I'll let that one slide.
Hey, it's all good. We're all friends off the ice, right? As long as they're not playing.
Absolutely. You know, so some of the best Hawks games I went to were when they were playing the Blues or the Blackhawks, because it was fans going after each other throughout the whole game. And once the game ended, it was, hey, can I buy you a beer? Where are you going afterwards, you know?
Oh, yeah. Tons of friends from Chicago, of course, you know, growing up in St. Louis. And then, you know, traveling a bit. So you play against those guys and eventually you play with them. So it's a fun rivalry for sure with hockey, baseball, anything. It's fun.
Yeah, it was always fun in college. We had a few I went to school in Minnesota, but we had a few teammates from the St. Louis area. One was Chris Flogger, who we were talking about earlier. And
yeah,
every time, you know, the Cubs or the Cardinals played or the Blackhawks and the Blues played, we were going back and forth. Still to this day, the messages go back and forth between us.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
it's that way. I mean, it was weird. It was in 2010, I think, when Chicago won that first of that 3 cup and kind of started that dynasty. At first, I was just, I mean, as a Blues fan, I was a little, I don't know, I wasn't sure how I felt. But then at the time I had a job that was still in hockey and it was more marketing and you know, I saw how much it grew the game in the Midwest and the Chicago area.
Yep.
I just thought, wow, that's such a cool thing. And I looked at it from that perspective and just, you know, seeing the parade and all the millions of people that showed up and just, you know, all the excitement and everything that happened in Chicago. And instead of being, you know, standing on the outside looking in from a jealous point of view, it was more like, that's awesome. Good for them. That has to happen to us one day. And when it does, it'll be perfect. And thank goodness 2019 finally came. But, you know, 1 cup, amazing. I can't imagine, you know, I have a lot of Chicago friends and some of them are like, oh, we're in the rebuild right now. Team's not looking good. Right? I'm like, you guys won 3 Stanley Cups in like 7 years, something ridiculous. I don't even know, 6 years, 7 years. So, I mean, heck, you trade that off for a rebuild any day. I think
absolutely. Well, and
right. So
I've been a Hawks fan for many years. So, you know, I was there through the lean years with Alpo Suhonen as the, you know, coach and, you know, things like that. So those of us that have been longtime fans, we absolutely savored it. But all of those people who discovered hockey in like 2009, 2010, they don't know what's going on. They're like, well, we should be in the playoffs every year. It's like, no.
It doesn't work that way. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. You know, but yeah, it was fun. And as much as I'm not a fan of the Blues, it was fun to see the city embrace them, embrace little Layla and Gloria. And, you know, it makes it so much better when there's those backstories and to see the city come together.
For sure. That was all kismet, for sure. And it's funny, like, thank you for saying that, because it felt the same, you know, like you look at the Cubs. I don't know if you're a Cubs fan. I assume you are.
Big time, yeah.
Okay, I assume so. So when you guys win the World Series, it's like, well, what now? Because that was their identity. It's like, you know, we're good a lot. We've got this, all this. They hadn't won in so long. And so at that point, my dad and I joked, like, the Blues are going to win the cup. Like, the Blues are going to win the cup soon. Like, it's happening. And we had this, like, ignorant confidence. But thankfully, you know, we both experienced what it's like to win. So.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned the Cubs. I grew up on the South Side, so geographically, I should have been a White Sox fan.
Okay, that's why I asked. I didn't know.
I love the Cubs, and everybody goes, "How did that happen?" I was Now, if you ask the kids I grew up with, they've all been Cub fans their whole lives. But the truth is, there was only one of them that liked both teams in the city, and then there was me, who was the Cubs fan. The rest of them were diehard White Sox fans.
Yeah.
But as I tell the story, growing up in the 80s in Chicago, the Cubs played all of their home games at 12:05 every day, and the White Sox played night games. Well, I had a bedtime. On top of that, the Cubs were on WGN and the White Sox were on cable, and we didn't have cable. So you put those two together, I became a Cubs fan and stuck with them through all those years, and it was definitely worth it.
It's an interesting story. I could go off on a bunch. I was thinking of all these different tangents. I'm like, who wants to talk about baseball? Hockey. I almost said something else about baseball. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because the previous episode, Kevin Woodley, he and I were talking, and he started his foray into journalism because of baseball. So it's funny on how baseball and hockey do overlap so much. It's a great off-season sport for hockey players.
It's fun. Too. I mean, it's good for the hand-eye, right? And and so I know a lot of Canadians even play it too, or lacrosse is big up there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, those having that secondary sport that's all hand-eye, I think only helps with hockey. So.
Yep, some of the best kids I coached played baseball in the off season. You could tell.
For sure.
It helped their hands. So before I forget, I want to ask, how's the lady doing?
She's doing awesome. She's out chilling right now. She was crying a little bit earlier, so she needed to go out back and take a nap. But no, she's doing great. Let's see, she's about 15, 16 months old now.
Yep.
15, so a little over a year. Still very much a puppy. Still super playful, but we've been super lucky. She's an awesome dog.
Yeah, right around the time you got her, my in-laws got the same breed, same little puppy, and they live with us part-time. So yeah, they are a very fun, very loving and loyal breed, but they have a unique personality. My in-laws' dog Stella, she doesn't bark, but we say she talks. She has this little whimper and whine where she gets your attention all the time.
Yeah, that's funny. She definitely has a lot of personality, and she kind of dominates the room. Like she's not the alpha as far as
right,
trying to just kind of make a point, but as far as getting your attention, she's the leader there for sure. It's hilarious, but it doesn't matter if the other dog's like 200 pounds. She'll just go right up to it and just paw it. Like, you want to play? And it's cute. But.
Absolutely. So I have to ask, what made you settle on the Golden Doodle breed?
Well, I like dog before I had a home of my own. Dog sat a lot and house sat and things like that, and always wanted a dog, but just when I had an apartment, it just didn't make sense. I wanted, so I waited until we had the backyard and all that good stuff. So once that happened, the first thing was get a dog. And the reason why we settled on that was after doing all the dog sitting, we watched this dog that actually lived right next door to my sister, who's been in like Hockey Journey and YouTube videos and all that stuff. And dog sat them and just fell in love with this dog. Like you said, just awesome, had a great personality, super smart, cute, loyal, all that. And we're like, all right, and it just made it easy from there. So we went to the same breeder, everything. And we had, knock on wood, so we've had her for about a little over a year, not one accident in the house, like just so smart. And just you teach her something, it sticks with her. So doesn't shed, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Got the allergies now. It's weird, like hit age 30 and like weird, all of a sudden I'm allergic to things I was never allergic to my whole life. Pet dander is one of them. So anyways, she's just been absolutely perfect.
Yeah. We got a full-size wiener dog and a French Mastiff. So shedding is an issue in our house. And it's, even though the French Mastiff looks big and scary, she's not the one you have to worry about. It's the little one.
Size is irrelevant with dogs sometimes. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think the wiener dog looks at the French Mastiff, it thinks that's the size she is. And the Mastiff looks at the wiener dog, it thinks that's the size she is.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, so enough dog talk, right? We could probably talk all day. But you and I connected, close to 2 years ago, and I wrote a blog piece about you, just a little bit about your background, and you shared that you started skating when you were 9 years old. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier, with the Blackhawks, seeing how them winning helped grow hockey, in Chicago and the Midwest. And yeah, the Hawks were a thing in Chicago when I was growing up, and it was kind of a niche sport to play in Chicago. We had rinks, we had enough of them, but not like they have now. And I know from having friends in St. Louis, it was kind of the same thing down there, but a little more scarce. How does a kid in St. Louis start, playing hockey at that time? What got you into it?
Yeah, you're actually right. It was real similar to how you described Chicago, just smaller, because St. Louis is a smaller city.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people were playing, but like you said, it was niche. What got me into it, if I had to just pinpoint one thing, would be Brett Hall and him scoring, 50 goals in 50 games, 50 goals in 8 games, and I just wanted to score goals. That's all I wanted to do. So I think I started skating actually when I was about 8, and then did learn to play house league, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the tail end of it, I think it was like the last game, the paths went my way, and I was able to find a full-right glove and blocker, I think, from Play It Again Sports. And so I had my own mitts with me, and then I played goalie, and then the rest was history. And then coincidentally, while I had that first game in goal, saw Curtis Joseph and Belfour play each other at the old arena in St. Louis. And so just seeing Eddie the Eagles mask and Cujo's mask setups, it was just, and I was right behind him. We won this raffle, so we were in the front row, which is usually we were sitting up top in the nosebleed. So to be that close and just see those guys, I was already in love with hockey because of Hall and because of a lot of guys, but that really made me fall in love with the position of goaltending. So I was around 9 years old then, and then just put the pads on and never looked back.
Yeah. So you mentioned watching those two play, and they had some great battles back and forth. Anytime those two are facing each other, you knew it was going to be a great game. Didn't matter if it was preseason, regular season, or postseason. I'll never forget my first Hawks game I got to go to. It was the last year at the old Chicago Stadium, New Year's Eve. They were playing the Dallas Stars, and I was never so upset to see Jeff Hackett walk out of the tunnel first, because I knew that meant I didn't get to see Eddie Belfour play that night. It was the first game I go to, and he's the backup tonight.
That's I've had so many of those moments, and you respect all those guys.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
But when you have your heart set, especially when you're younger, heart set on seeing somebody that the other guy plays, you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah. I loved Hackett too. He was still wearing the Cooper combo with the iTech dangler off of it. So, he had a great look to him at the time. That I tried emulating because I was wearing the, Hasek style helmet, but I wanted that dangler too, to have that look, and just didn't work with the Hasek cage.
That was hard to pull off, but Hackett had good style, just like Eddie. I think he had Vaughn setups.
Yeah.
For the most part, right?
Yeah, he had Vaughn, and then when he went to Montreal, he went to Vic and finished up in Vic in Montreal and Boston.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but he had some great looking setups. And he had that beautiful mask with the headdress, kind of Darren Pang inspired.
Yeah, that was a beauty mask. That's one of the best. Blackhawks masks, I think, all time. And then somebody else more recently, is it? Who did that? Someone did. I want to say around 2010. I want to say did a headdress as well.
I think it may have been.
It wasn't Tebow.
It may have been Ranta when he was with the Hawks.
Yeah, Ranta did. He did. I want to say someone did in between them. But anyway, that would be a no-brainer for me if I ever played.
Yep.
For the Hawks, headdress on the mask, that would look sick.
Absolutely. Although the Blackhawks, a lot of people think their logo is going to one day change because of the Native American imagery, but they have been very active with the Native American community. And they've come out and said, if you try wearing a headdress to a game, you're not coming in. They're really trying to respect the heritage and the culture at the same time, which is good to see. So it makes me wonder from the goalie mask standpoint, if that will be something the team tries to shy away from.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting topic. I think, I look at it from the sense of you're honoring them. Like if
Yep.
you put something on your mask, it's like to honor them. So
Yeah.
I don't see how that could ever be disrespectful.
Right.
And I know you know that, you get that, but hopefully the masses get that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the Blackhawks have really taken the right approach, if there can be one in 2020, of
Yeah.
including the Native American community. And they've done this for years without publicizing it and letting it be known that they are honoring that. It's not like Chief Wahoo. So I think the history of the name and the logo is not lost upon the Native American community. It's been embraced by them as well.
Good. I mean, that's good to know. I mean, it's such a good looking logo. And coming from a guy who's, a lifelong Blues fan,
Yeah.
the Blue Note is my second or third favorite logo. Number one's the Blackhawks logo.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like intimidating. So for it to be your rival growing up, it's the perfect logo, I think. But
yeah, from a pure design standpoint, it's amazing. And, Murray Bannerman, when he had that mask, basically, well, where is it here on my bottle? When he had that mask, with basically the logo come to life, it was just amazing. In fact, when I first started skating, I went to Murray Bannerman to learn to skate. So that was kind of fun.
Nice. I would love to go to that.
When you and I first connected, you said you feel like you've been a goalie your whole life. And there's a lot of truth to that. There was the old cartoon in Goalie's World magazine where the doctor just delivers the baby and he's in full gear and he says, "Congratulations, you've given birth to a goalie." But when did you kind of get that bug? You mentioned in that first year playing, you were excited to get the pads. Was it something you were just itching from the get-go or what?
Yeah, and I did say it was I made it seem like it happened overnight. It didn't. I was itching to get those pads all season long, but, I want to say it was alphabetical order, and my last name beginning with a V, I was the last kid to get them. I can't remember, but I think it was something like that. And I was itching to play goalie. I was itching to get the gear, go to the clinics, do all the things. And, my parents just weren't having that. It took me a while to convince them to let me give it a try. And so once, I was on that team where it's like, well, everyone plays goalie at some point, it's kind of like, I get my chance. It's like, well, you got to wait till the last game of the season. And sure enough, like from what I remember, I was for as lights out as a newbie 8 or 9-year-old kid can be. I felt like I was pretty lights out as far as like stopping a puck and being into it. And it's weird. I remember for sure we lost 1-0 to the team that just smoked everyone all year. So it was kind of like a moral victory for us. We didn't get our butts kicked. And I remember stopping a ton of shots and then just getting off the ice with just the biggest head ever and looking at my dad and being like, what now? Like, and then the other coaches were kind of like, yeah, I think this might be for him. And so I had them supporting it. And then finally, I think my dad was even like, kind of like, okay, because I was better at that than I was at the other positions, I think, at least from the get-go. And I think that moment sold it for him. And so we went, it could have been what seemed like the next day. Within that week, we went and finally got all the gear and set up, so started going on the ice and got signed up for all the clinics and things like that. And then, the rest is history.
Yeah, I remember when I first started playing. So I played baseball beforehand, and I wanted to be a catcher. I loved being a catcher because, one, nobody else wanted to catch, so I got to play every inning of every game.
Right.
But there was just something about putting on the equipment. I loved it. And then first year house tryouts, they needed more goalies, so they asked if anybody wanted to try it out. And they just had the gloves and a stick out there during tryouts. And of course, my hand went up, and as my dad tells the story, it was one of his coworkers from the firehouse brought me over the gloves, and he said he knew right then and there I was going to be a goalie. And that was all I needed, was to try the gloves on, and it's like, all right, this is kind of fun. Never went back, and I think my association did it the right way. Every team had 2 goalies, and if you weren't playing that game, you skated out. So I didn't get to play every game my first year, but the next year we were short goalies, so I was the only one. It was, you better not get sick or hurt because we need you. In fact, it was that second year we entered a travel tournament in Pekin, Illinois, and played the Afton Americans from St. Louis.
Okay. Yeah.
And again, they were just smoking everybody in the tournament. And I remember they beat us, but I kept it to single digits, and they were pretty impressed that a house team was able to keep them to single digits. So
That's awesome.
that was a fun tournament for many, many reasons. The knee hockey in the hallways primarily, and
for sure. Knee hockey is such a huge part of those tournaments, for sure.
Yeah.
Afton was my big childhood rivalry, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, now I coach all those kids, and so, I mean, that rivalry's left my brain 25 years ago, but back when I was a little kid, we were typically in second place, and they were in first place, so it was a big rivalry for us.
Yeah, I remember in that tournament, pretty much the whole team was in one kid's room, and one of the parents is walking by as like 12 pizzas are being delivered, and they're like, "What's going on here?" And the kid goes, "Oh, my dad left his card with me, so I ordered some pizzas." And so this parent went down to the pool where all the parents were hanging out and goes, your boy just ordered a couple pizzas for the team. And he goes, "Well, if they're all in the room, they can't be getting in trouble. It's okay." So, yeah, that was an expensive day for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I gotta get back to my notes here. So I watched your movie, the Hockey Journey, and it was fantastic. But it got me thinking: have you thought of a sequel and coming to the Let's Play Hockey Expo here in Minnesota?
Oh, I would love to. So yes, I would love to do a sequel. Right now, so it's you watch it at hockeyjourney.com, and it's on the Vimeo platform. And right now we're waiting to get it on some bigger platforms. Some more familiar ones, let's say. So that's supposed to happen here any day now. So fingers crossed.
Amazing.
But I would love to do Minnesota. I would love to do Toronto. I would love to do Helsinki. I mean, if it were up to me, if I could afford it, I'd do 10, 15.
Make it a series.
Make it a series, or even like 4 or 5 part series. I think would be really cool and just help grow the game of hockey. But thanks for watching it. It was obviously a passion project for us, and a lot of work, a lot of time, but no regrets. We're really proud of how it turned out, and hopefully more people end up seeing it when it's on those other platforms, and hopefully we can keep doing more. But yeah, Minnesota and the Hockey Expo and the state tournament, all the pond hockey that goes on there. I mean, it's called the state of hockey for a reason. So
absolutely. I mean, we've got the backyard rink build in progress, and I'm hoping the neighbor gives me a call saying, "Yeah, let's finish it up today." And then I look to my right outside the window, and half a block down, there's a pond that freezes over that the kids go skate on too. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, the Let's Play Hockey Expo is something else. I've been taking my son since he was 3 years old. He's now 12.
Okay. So we've been there at the same time at some point. Obviously, we didn't know each other, but I went, let's see, I haven't been in like 4 or 5 years, but I went like 3 or 4 years straight. I want to say around like 2010, 2013-ish. But
that's when it was still really good. Back when Bauer and CCM and East, when they all had a massive presence there. And I miss those big booths because they had some cool stuff. But I almost like that the big brands aren't there, because you spend more time looking at the smaller brands and the smaller booths as well, which is fun.
Yeah, no, it's funny you bring that up, because we were planning on being there at the last Hockey Expo, and there are a million setbacks that happened with us making that film, but thankfully we got through everything. But at the time we had another setback, and it was, I was all ready to go, but it's like, we can't go and promote a movie that's not even, it's not even available. There's nowhere for anyone to see it at all. So it just kind of seems silly. So we had to cancel last second, which was a bummer. But I was going to say I'd be in for sure this year, but with everything that's going on, I'm guessing that's not going to be happening, of course.
I don't know. In Minnesota, I think they might find a way to still make it happen. I'm cautiously optimistic. My gut tells me it probably won't happen, because they just shut down all youth sports for the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Typically, high school hockey, they start tryouts right after God, I got to remember. I used to coach at the high school level, but this was before my kids were born, so 13 years ago. I think it was right around Thanksgiving is when we started tryouts. So
Okay.
there's a chance they could still get a season in if they, maybe went a little longer into the spring.
Okay.
Well,
I hope they do. High
yeah,
school hockey there obviously is phenomenal.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
I mean, you look at some of the guys in the NHL right now. I still remember watching TJ Oshie dominate the state tournament.
yeah.
And some other guys that are in the pros. It's fun to watch, and just the way it takes over the state. I mean, as you know, having been here, it's on network TV for
Mhm.
what is it, 4 or 5 days. It's not an excused absence from school, but they don't mark it down either. If you don't, whether
Yeah.
your school's in it or not, if you skip school to go to the state tournament, it's kind of understood that it's okay. Now, the last couple of years, my kid's school has been in it, so it hasn't really been an issue saying, yeah, I'm taking my boy out of school on Friday to go to the expo. In
Even
fact,
better.
last year their school won it, so that was exciting as well.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those. When I first came to school, started college, and all my teammates from Minnesota were talking about the state tournament. All of us out of state kids were like, "What are you guys talking about?" And
Yeah.
then we go and come home from skating because our season had ended already at that point. But we'd still go to we had a rink on campus. So we'd still skate every afternoon, and we'd come back, and here it is from like noon to 9 o'clock at night on network TV, and just sitting there. The best part of it was every time they went to commercial, they would go to a highlight from the previous year's tournament. And I forget who Hermantown was playing, but the guy comes in, makes a move on the goalie, slides it between his legs. That Hermantown goalie was now one of my teammates, and he was watching the games with us. So every time they went to commercial, we would just give him the business going, oh, are you going to stop it this time, Nosey? No, it went in on you again. And it
That's
was
hilarious.
getting upset. Yeah,
Hilarious.
that was a fun state tournament to watch with him. And he
The
probably
state tournament up there is awesome, man. Yeah, the Hockey Expo, Hockey Day in Minnesota is really cool. I got to be a part of that and see it firsthand.
Yep.
The whole day event. It was, I want to say it was in Edina the year. I can't remember where exactly, but it's outdoor game, and they had games, boys, girls games, varsity, junior varsity all day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, I've watched some of those games a couple years ago. My brother-in-law, one of his friends, had a boot hockey tournament on his backyard pond on Hockey Day, Minnesota. So it was, just kind of a round robin tournament. If your team wasn't playing, now he had an unfinished basement, which is really nice because if you weren't playing, you could just keep all your stuff on, go into the basement, have a beverage or two while you were watching the Hockey Day games, and then go back out for your game. That was a long, fun day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, those were long, fun days for sure, but still a lot of fun. Now, who won last year? It wasn't Eden Prairie, was it?
The state tournament or Hockey Day?
Yeah, the state tournament.
So I forget who won the AA tournament. It may have been Eden Prairie. The single A was Matamidi.
Okay.
So that much I remember.
Okay. And
yeah,
that's where your kiddo goes to.
Yeah, that's where my kids go. So they were pretty excited. A bunch of their friends were at the game. So, and they would scan the crowd, saw quite a few familiar faces, which was
awesome.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's real cool.
Yeah.
Something I've never told anybody. Before my senior year of high school, I practiced. I went up and lived with a buddy for like 2-3 weeks. A teammate and I did. And we practiced with Eden Prairie the whole time. And I was very close to going there and playing there my senior year.
Oh, really?
I don't have any regrets, but when I was in my mid-20s, and I was going to the tournament, and I saw the crowds and the atmosphere and the hockey itself and everything, I was like, maybe that would have been the right move at the time. But anyway, it looked pretty cool. Like I said, no regrets, but it's on another level up there for sure. And hockey is catching up here. It's growing. It's definitely, more people are playing, more people are passionate, and the Blues obviously help with their championship. But it's Minnesota's just on another level, so it's pretty cool. I get to visit there.
The other thing we're seeing in St. Louis too is the Blues alumni that have decided to call St. Louis home after they finish playing, and they're not just calling it home, but they're coaching and giving back to the game as well, which I think is really helping the game grow there.
Yeah, exactly. That is a huge reason why all those kids are getting drafted. I mean, some of them are the sons of those guys, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of them all, had the fortune of playing for those guys. Like, hey, who taught you how to shot block? Al McInnes. Hey, who taught you this? Jeff Brown. Who taught you this? Kelly Chase and Bruce Racine and all these guys that are, involved, Kachuk and just coach. It's crazy. And so now Andy McDonald's the head coach of a AAA Blues team, and his son's a phenomenal player. And, just the saga continues. So it's been we've been real spoiled as far as that goes, that there are so many alums that call St. Louis home and that they decide to give back and coach their kids and other kids. And it's pretty cool. Jamal Mayers is another guy.
Yeah.
His kid is now, I think he's only 7 or 8, but like Jamal's a phenomenal coach too. And so I'm sure he's going to help a lot of kids out too. So it's just cool to see. It really is.
Yeah. As a Hawks fan, I am a big Jamal Mayers fan.
Oh, I love that. I see him all the time now.
Seeing what he does in the community too. And, again, 2020 and race relations and everything, and how he's really made efforts to, show kids of color that, hey, this is a game for you too. It's not just, a sport for white kids. And that's been really neat to see, and how that's been embraced as well.
Totally. He's got his children's book, I think. That says, or what's the title? It's Hockey is for Me, I think, something like that. But,
as we talk about hockey in St. Louis, what was in the water in the mid-90s in St. Louis for goaltenders? Because, I mean, we've got we've got Ben Bishop, Mike McKenna, goalie gear nerd. I mean, there's just 4 goalies right there that people know of. There's some quality goaltending. What was it? The Racine Goalie Academy pumping you guys out, or what was?
No, not yet. Actually, Bruce was still playing professional hockey, so the Racine Goalie Academy came into effect in 2006, 2005-ish. So Lindsay Meadowbrook taught all those guys, and then to add names, there's a guy named Charlie Effinger, Dan DeLeo. Those are 2 other names of really good goaltenders, and I'm sure I'm missing some names, but it was pretty cool that we were looked at as having good goaltending up there with like the Bostons and the Chicagos and the Minnesotas, since it's such a small town. But Lindsay Middlebrook played in the NHL in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe, and then he called St. Louis home because he played for St. Louis University, which back when he played was in the CCHA with Bowling Green, Michigan State, and all those schools.
Back when University of Illinois Chicago had a team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same fate. But so anyhow, he had a school called Goaltending by Design, and all those guys that you and I just named were always there, and eventually McKenna and I were his coaches and his like sidekick. So I actually started coaching goalies when I was probably 14, 15 years old. And I never thought it would pay the bills along with like YouTube videos, but here we are, no complaints. It's been a fun ride.
I think back to when you and I started, and there wasn't much outside of going to a goalie school or finding the odd book published in the 70s at the school library. There wasn't much for us. And now I look at kids today and just the YouTube videos they have available to them, things like In Goal Magazine, and the number of goalie schools they have available to them now compared to, I don't know what it was like in St. Louis, but there were only a very select few in Chicago, and most of them it's 1 week in the summer and that's it.
Yeah. Stu Gould from Chicago would come down to St. Louis sometimes, and then Lindsay had his thing, and that was really about it. And Gould wasn't in Chicago, it wasn't in St. Louis regularly. So, I actually went to Miami of Ohio camps when I was like 10, 11, 12 and worked with Mitch Korn. And so when I was a kid, I was a little, I don't know, like a little timid, but like a little intimidated by him just because he was a little different than my coaches. But then like once I saw what he saw, once I started to figure out the position and like understand it and actually become a goalie, then everything he said made perfect sense to me. And I saw him completely differently. And then, but you know, when I first went to him, I was clueless. I had, you know, a senior stick and, you know, all these things that I was doing wrong and all that. And so, you know, he made sure to let me know. And at first I'm like, who is this guy? And then it didn't take long for me to realize how knowledgeable he was. And, you know, and I mean, like, within that day or that next day, I'm at that camp. I'm like, okay, yeah, he's right. Okay, yeah, I get it. So, that I would say I learned a great deal from him. But yes, and I don't know. I know Bishop went to Lindsay Meadowbrook, and I know McKenna did, and I know those other guys did. But yeah, like you said, when we were kids, there wasn't a lot. It was you'd watch a tape that could have been 6 years old, you know, and could have had skate saves in it or whatever. So you'd like fast forward through that part, and you'd watch the other stuff about angles or whatever, and you'd feel like you just kind of like revamped your game. Like it was just weird looking back at how different it was. And now you have all this information at your fingertips. You can, Ingoal Magazine has pro reads where you can, you know, for like $3 a month, and you could watch these NHL and professional goaltenders.
Yeah, they're amazing.
In the world, talk about dissect games, and you can learn so much. And so, I make sure to remind the kids I coach how lucky they are to have all this, and how lucky they're to have goalie coaches and ice and fancy gear and all that. So
I remember one year for Christmas, my mom and dad got me Popa goaltending VHS tapes.
I
was all over it, but when I turned him on, I mean, he's just sitting there in front of probably a camcorder he set up himself with a very monotone voice. He's like, and this is what you do next. And like, you go back and it's like, God, this is terrible to watch, but like, I was glued to it and, you know, followed it to a T. And I had them up until recently. You know, last time I cleaned out the garage, I finally got rid of them just because I haven't had a VCR in 15 years to play them.
Right.
You know, but it was like that was all we had. Now I was pretty fortunate. My first year playing house league hockey, there was a AHL goalie by the name of Darren McCluskey who his career had ended, and he was trying to start a goalie school. So he wound up going on to start the Greater Chicago Goalie School, but he wanted to just build up a reputation. So he came to our association and said, if you can get the ice, I'll do a weekly clinic for all of your goalies. And so the very first year I started, I actually had decent instruction on the basics. And then every summer, instead of it being a week in the summer, it was 1 day, 1 to 2 days every week for the whole summer, going to see Darren and do dry land and on ice and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome. And I mean, nowadays, and even back then especially, like you get that private lesson or that clinic or whatever it was, you had to remind yourself of like what you learned, you know, like the next day you stepped on the ice, it'd be like, okay, you know, I got to work on this, and this, and, you know, I got to tap my post and come out to here. And you had to really think about all the lessons you learned and try to like reinforce it on your own. And I try to remind these kids, I'm like, you guys have lessons like every day, like, you know, and it's so obvious to see like what kids like think about it, you know, they don't just go through the motions. They're actually like thinking about it, they're actually trying to apply it, and those kids get better. And the ones who just kind of take in one ear out the other and just kind of go through the motions, like, you know, they don't get better. So that's kind of applies to that whole thing. But
what's funny is when you and I were young goalies too, like coaches, even USA Hockey wasn't advocating for practice plans to include stuff for the goalies.
Right.
They just thought you're shooting at the goalie, that's practice.
So practice, right?
The coaches truly didn't understand goaltending. And there were times where the coach comes up to me in a practice, he's like, I want you to try doing this. And I would look at him, you know, as a squirt and be like, no, that's not what the goalie coach told me this week. And then he was like, well, what do you mean? And I had to explain to him what I'm supposed to be doing. And finally, that particular coach, Mr. Marzell, he was just like, all right, I'm going to leave you be because you're clearly getting goalie coaching. So, but that era, those coaches came from a time when they were kids. Goalies played stand up, and I had a coach literally tell me, don't go down, stay on your feet. And it's like, the game's a little bit different now. I'm going to go down and to the butterfly. And my game was a little more a mix between Cujo and Hasek, and that I was all over the place. So that, for an older coach like that, it was a little hard to swallow.
Probably a little tough in his heart too, but
yeah,
no, it's funny you say that, because now that I coach goalies, and so sometimes you go to practices, and it's really fascinating to me, because some head coaches who've never played the position, never had a kid who did anything, like every now and then, like, they get it and they see it, and they know what to say. They know whether it be the terminology or just what to look for, and you're like, it impresses me, and it's happening more and more, because they actually they see the importance, and they study the whole game instead of just everything but the goaltender. And then there's still those coaches who are just like, I even talk to the goalies. I say hi to them. I tell them good game, and that's it. And you're like, they're like, I don't. You guys do whatever you do. Take them to McDonald's for all I care. Just they're yours for the hour, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's just funny, but I think as we go forward, most of these younger, more innovative coaches, they see what they see on the NHL, and it's like, kind of going back to what you just said, it's less like having that Hasek style, and it's more about, technique. And so everyone's playing a similar way. And I think, if you study the game at the high levels, then, you know what to look for with the goalies. And a lot of these younger coaches are seeing it that way.
Yeah.
Or just these high level coaches. It doesn't really matter how old they are, but.
Yeah. I had to laugh when I was coaching at the high school level. The goalies would do certain things in games, and the head coach would just get so upset, and he'd look at me. He's like, why is he doing that? And I would look back at him, sometimes angry, because we'd had this discussion before the game. It's like, because that's what they're supposed to do. You know? And he's like,
you want to defend your teammate, right? Like you want to defend your buddy. And
he was like, but I don't like that. And the one day I said, I don't care. Like, you don't have to like it. I don't like the power play you're running, but I'm not telling you how to run the power play.
Right.
And but we had a decent working relationship, so it worked out. So I want to get back to your hockey journey movie. It was fun. You bring this certain kind of dry, sarcastic humor to your videos, which is just awesome. But when your nephew was on talking about, how he wants to be, a goalie as he grows up, he got a little cocky. He said he wants to be like you, but better.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the next time you are on the ice with him, you lit him up, or, buzz one by the tower or something.
It's actually funny. That was unprovoked. And I was talking to the other one about, hey, this is what we're going to, trying to like prepare the other one. And so I just look over, and my cameraman, Dave, is just like red face cracking up. And I'm like, wait, what do you say? And he's like, you'll see. And so I didn't see that live. I saw that later on, and I was like, oh, is that right? But he was so camera shy, which is not even his personality at all. So to see him all like shy like that, and just kind of saying what he said, I thought was hysterical. But no, he's pretty good. He just needs to figure out like the whole putting it together focus wise, and he slowly is. I mean, he's only 9 or he's 10 now, but that part's coming together. And once he really figures that out and really dials in, like the kids, I wouldn't say this to him, and kids his age don't listen to podcasts, so I think we're okay. But he's pretty good. But it's been fun to be on the ice with him. But when he does get overconfident, I don't know where he gets that from. I gotta take him down a peg or two, and score a few goals. So put him in place. It's fun.
That one, when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that was spot on. Perfect.
Oh, I loved it. Like someone's asked, like, oh man, did that burn? I'm like, no. I go, he should want to make it to the NHL. Like, I don't want my nephew aspiring to be in the DHL. Like,
I want to be like him, but better. The delivery was just so perfect.
He was dead serious.
And if he doesn't make it to the NHL, he might have a career in YouTube videos.
I definitely won't tell him that.
Because kids and social media and everything these days, Yeah.
I know what you mean.
There was another part of the movie where the light bulb kind of went on for me. You were talking about how you started the Kickstarter campaign to help fund the project, because a project like that, there's a lot more to it than I think people would understand. And that doesn't come for free. You know, we all have friends that can help us out, but at some point there's that tipping point where they're like, I need a little something here. It's cutting into my day job. But you said you started the Kickstarter, not Kicksaver. And I just kind of went, what if there was a Kicksaver crowdfunding for goaltenders? Because goalie equipment isn't cheap. There might be an idea there.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, heck, if we can do more of these, I'd love to be in a position to put some kind of, something like that together. Yeah. I know the Goalie Guild, I want to say, does, McGear scholarships and things like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that at the same time. I was going to bring up Justin and his gear stuff that he's able to do, and some of it is just somebody who's done with the equipment and they send it in, and or it's like, where can I send it? And that's been great. But I'm thinking of almost like that beer leaguer like myself who's like, yeah, I want new stuff, but this is expensive. And
for like your teammates, maybe your teammates.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, you've seen my stuff. I'm skating with some pretty old equipment. I was on the ice the one time with a bunch of high school kids last year, and I looked around. I'm like, my equipment's older than everybody out here, except for the coach and myself. As
long as it protects you, though, that's all that really matters. But
right,
it does. Gear makes such a difference. It really, like, you can slide, you can seal up to the ice, like it does make it easier. It's wild.
Yeah. I actually got a phone call 2 days ago from one of my buddies up here who runs a goalie school, Ryan S.
Okay.
And he goes, I know you're thinking of getting new equipment. The Wild are about to have their garage sale, and I know some folks over there, so I can get in there ahead of time. He goes, they got a bunch of Al Stalock stuff. It's $1,000 for a set. And I'm like,
that's not bad.
Well, do I want to or not? And so I was kind of going back and forth with them. I was like, that's a really good deal. I said, but if I'm going to get another set, I want to go full on custom for me, because I know it's going to be my last set.
Right.
He's like, he's like, well, I just bought 4 sets. So if you change your mind, let me know. Because he's like, I know you, I know Al, you guys are about the same height. You kind of like the same specs. It's like, it was pretty darn tempting. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. I can see you in a Stalock spec. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Blues have their equipment sales, and I used to, when I had no money, go and just drool over the pads, and I'd want them, but it's just like, it'd be like Brian Elliott or Ben, the thigh size, or then, the size didn't make sense. But now Binnington, he's only an inch taller than I am, so his pads, they fit fine.
Yeah.
And just, Benner being Stanley Cup champ, being the dude he was, like, I saw his setup for sale. I'm like, I wish I just, like, if I absolutely had to, sure, but I wish I could just be like, I'm going to buy that just to have it. Just be like, that's anything CCM setup. And it wasn't the Stanley Cup one. I highly doubt, but the color scheme was the exact same. Right. It looked the exact same setup. No one would know, except maybe Goalie, you're a nerd, of course. He knows everything. But
he would.
Yeah, he totally would.
Yeah, he'd be like, that's from games 42 to
exactly. Oh man, he's the man. He's great. We'll talk about him in a second. But yeah, it's just like, I'm like, I wish I could just buy that setup and just have a bar with all these cool NHL pads and setup. So
there are times where on some of the Facebook groups I follow, it's like, where do people come up with the money to have that many sets in their garage and just don't wear them? They don't have them set out at in the man cave or anything. It's like, I get enjoying this stuff, but there's a line somewhere, and I don't get it. But
their own. I admired it. I just I have a decent collection, but it's nowhere near what I want it to be. But
same.
Hope to get I got a couple ideas. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So hopefully come to fruition here soon.
Yeah. For the equipment, I just said, rather than pine away and wish I could have, somebody's game worn stuff. I just built during COVID, I built a pro style locker for the garage to hang my stuff on. So it's like, at least it looks cool out there. It's not just sitting on a few hooks. It's like walking into the locker room in college where everything's hanging up nice. And I still have my nameplates from college, so I put one of them on the locker stall. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, my wife picked on me a little bit for it. She's like, "Really? You had to put your nameplate on there?" It's like, well, yeah. Why wouldn't I?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you mentioned goalie gear nerd. I talked to him previously. In fact, that episode launched this week, and yeah, he's a really cool guy. He brought up the Gunzo catalogs and how he liked walking around with those. Like, that's where I got one of my first sets of equipment, was up at Gunzo's. And
yeah.
I think he was a little bit jealous.
Oh, probably. Yeah. We had like a carousel of hockey shops. And it wasn't like Chicago. I mean, like we talked about earlier, but
we only had Gunzos at that point in time. So we had to, like, if I needed equipment, we had to plan the day out because they were up on the north side. There's a few more now. There's Jerry's. There was Hockey Unlimited for a while that Goalie Gear Nerd and I talked about. Lucky for me, Hockey Unlimited was right across from Southwest Ice Arena where I skated. And they catered to goaltenders. In fact, they white labeled a line for a while called Ice Gear that Goalie Gear Nerd had posted a picture of the stuff. He's like, anybody know anything about this? I was like, oh, I actually do. I knew the guy that had it. And because I remember asking him questions about it. He was always trying to push it on everybody that came into the store. But his saying was, if you look good, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how good you play as long as you look good.
Pretty sure I've said that on YouTube before at one point.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's awesome. I mean, it's funny. Like I thought I knew a lot about goalie gear.
Right.
I still do. And if you want to rattle off a random goalie in a year, I'm pretty confident there's a good chance I could tell you like what they wore and what their color scheme was. And all that stuff. But goalie gear nerd's like an encyclopedia. That's like a whole nother level of knowledge and intelligence that it's awesome to talk to because you learn a great deal and sometimes it's like things I forgot he'll remind me of. It's like, oh yeah, okay, now I remember. I knew that, I forgot it, but it was back there somewhere. But
he was
like an encyclopedia.
He was a fun conversation to have, absolutely. And I told him when I finally do order a new set of equipment, I'm coming to him to ask about proper specs for my style, my like, because I haven't bought any since the 1900s, so I'm going to need help.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I want to be mindful of time here. So I'll ask just a few quick questions before I get into my rapid fire. In your movie, you talk about Center Ice Brewing, and I have to ask, because I'm a craft beer aficionado, how good is their beer? Because I keep seeing it, and from a hockey fan standpoint, I'm like, I need to have their beer, but they don't sell it here in Minnesota. So I got to know, how good is it?
It's delicious. If you're in St. Louis, it's a must for a hockey guy like you. It's an absolute must. Steve is he's one of the hardest working, most passionate people I've ever met, and you taste it in the beer and just the atmosphere of this place. It's pretty cool. It really sucks now because of COVID, everything shut down. So he's still selling beer at Center Ice Brewery. They do their
growlers and stuff.
Yeah, growlers and all that good stuff. Yeah, exactly. And all that, but you can't go in and watch a game anymore. But and not that there are games on, but they do reruns and things like that. But yeah, it's delicious. I personally like the Arena Lager. Personally, that's my favorite. But I like more of a lager, more of a golden ale kind of guy. But
that's a great post game beer style too.
Yeah, and it's usually post game is when I'm having that. So the first time we met with Steve, he had us just before that, like a year before it opened, and at that point he had just had a successful Kickstarter campaign, and it was still just a big idea, and everything was just empty, dirty. He just bought the building. And he had samples, and I had a sample of all of his beers, and I had to take an Uber home. I was like, this is so strong, dude. Like I can't drive home. And I only had like 4 of them. So I was like, well, I'll have a couple more and then just Uber it home. But it's strong. But yeah, it was delicious though. I loved it.
Yeah, and I've probably followed him on social media from when he first got on there. So I've just like sitting here going, why can't you distribute to Minnesota? That stuff would sell like hotcakes up here. He might have to change the coloring on the cans from,
for the arena lager.
Yeah, to something a little more red and green for Wild fans, or even go North Stars colors, and then it'll sell for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip these other questions and just get right into the rapid fire ones here.
All right. Let's do it.
What is the craziest coaching moment you've had during your time in hockey? And it could be something you blew up, a coach went crazy on you guys, or what?
I had a coach. I'm not going to name his name, but he played in the NHL, and his brother was an NHL coach for a very long time. He chucked a full Gatorade bottle at my head during intermissions. just smoked me. Like I wasn't even looking, and it obviously hurt. And I wasn't having a good game. And he goes, "Well, you can stop that." And I was just like, and I'm looking around, like, I just joined this team, like, a month later, and I didn't really have any close friends, so that was super foreign to me. And I'm just looking around, like, I didn't know what to do. I was so embarrassed and in pain because I just got smoked in the face with a full Gatorade bottle. It did not help me play any better. I can tell you that much. It didn't play any better. I'm pretty sure he yanked me after the next goal, but I reset the next game. But yeah, it was that was probably one of my worst moments with a coach, and I'm pretty sure I said a couple things afterwards that I'd not like to repeat. But.
That reminds me of one of my favorite. One of the craziest, but so one of my favorite coaching moments. It was freshman year, state playoffs. So in Illinois, they have a state playoffs for JV hockey as well, which is awesome. State playoffs, and the refs were just not great that night. And our coach was getting pretty frustrated, and he may have said a few choice words to him, and they threw him out of the game. So he throws his clipboard. Well, it hits one of my buddies right on the head and breaks in two. Now he's got a helmet up and everything,
right.
So that was fine. But then the coach at the rink we're playing at, St. Spectrum, right off the benches had these stairs, and it's not like he could go upstairs. It was just stairs to a door that was always locked. So he's pounding up these stairs, and they were metal stairs, so it's echoing throughout the arena. And he sits at the top and just arms crossed and everything until the game's over. And then he comes in. He was studying to get his PhD in psychology at the time too. So after the game, he walks into the locker room, and at St. Spectrum, they had the tiniest, stinkiest locker rooms. And he walks up and he goes, "All right, fellas, in case your mom and dad ask what exactly it is I said to the referee," and they didn't hear for some reason, because I thought I was pretty loud, I said, "You got to be freaking kidding me." And well, because of the broken clipboard, my teammate whose head it broke over, he took up a collection for the end of the year banquet, and we bought the coach a new clipboard. So, and the three of us still keep in touch to this day. And I forget who it was. Lane Kiffin just threw a clipboard or something, broke it at a game. Well, my coach is the one that texted us the story. He goes, "A coach after my own heart." So we've had fun with that one.
Yeah, it's a passionate game. Coaches get heated.
Yes.
It happens.
Oh, when I was coaching, at the high school level in Minnesota, the referees come up, introduce themselves to everybody beforehand, and I would look at them and I would say, "Now, just so you know, it's in my job description. I'm supposed to pick on you and yell at you throughout the whole game. So it's nothing personal. It's just something I'm supposed to do." And that got a laugh out of them, broke the ice a little bit. So when things get a little heated, there was a little grace.
It's always good to have those guys on your side. At the BHL, I started my young career in the BHL, and it was like a heated game or whatever. I'd bark at the refs, and then it took a few years for me to wise it up and learn I want those guys on my side. So I learned to just keep my mouth shut, thank them when appropriately, ask them how they're doing, how their day is going. It goes a long way. You actually feel like I got some calls. But
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. When I was at that Greater Chicago goaltending school, as I was talking about, one of the guys that was shooting on us all the time, there were the two brothers, the Schmuck brothers, and they were both
The brothers,
Schmuck brothers.
Schmuck brothers. Gotcha.
And we had some colorful nicknames for them because of that. Well, it was actually Schmut, but everybody just called them the Schmucks. But they were both referees too, and they just kind of let us know, like, hey, be nice to the referee. Always pick up the puck for him. Joke around with him, because that's going to get you the quicker whistles. That's going to get you the benefit of the doubt. And that sunk in real quick with me. And just for whatever reason, they did a lot of coaching at the high school level. And so they coached a lot of my freshman, sophomore year high school games, which was really fun, because if I wasn't playing, they would skate by the bench and toss me Jolly Ranchers, because they were always eating Jolly Ranchers during the game. But I always got the quicker whistles. And there was one game, some kid was just hacking at my pads, always going for the extra whack after the whistle. And finally, right at the end of the second period, he was in my way, screening me. And I took my stick and just cross-checked him in the back, knocked him over, and no whistle. And he's skating away, come on, you need to call that. And their coach is going berserk. And Mark just looks at me and goes, you've been giving him shit the whole game, and I haven't called it on you. Now he got back at you, and now it's fair. And their coach, he goes, works for me. And this kid was still going. So he wound up getting a 2-minute penalty for unsportsmanlike, because I gave you the opportunity to let it be there, and you kept going.
Yeah, it's good to have the refs on your side. One of my childhood buddies, his name's Jeff. His dad was a ref. His dad's name was Phil. Awesome guy, and he was the head ref in Missouri for a long time, like high school, you name it. And when kids would get under his skin, he was we were family friends, and it's not like we got like blown calls or anything like he called the game our way or anything like that. But he'd skate by and be like, KVG, number 17, I can't stand that kid. If you whack him once or twice, I'm like, all right, like back of the leg. He's like, sure. I'm like, all right, cool. Thanks, Phil. And then, of course, I make sure I got that kid as soon as I got a chance. So, but it was funny. He couldn't fist bump me, but he'd like skate by and kind of give me a wink or say something. I don't know. Guy was still is an absolute beauty, but it's good to have the refs on your side. If anyone younger is listening, be respectful first and foremost. Respect people who are there helping you play the game, but doesn't hurt to be a little extra nice either.
Absolutely. They're the ones that are going to give you that early whistle or wave it off if they agree with you. There's been a few times in the beer leagues where we only have the one referee and they blow the whistle and the puck kind of squeaks a little bit behind me, but because I pull it back before they can come and look, they know it went in, but they're like, by the time it was not over the line when I looked at it. It's just be nice to him. He goes a long way. So moving along, what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh gosh.
Many of them. I know.
Oh man. Potvin or Cujo? Potvin with Toronto, of course, I really love that one. And then I love Cujo's the simple one, Before the Dog. I love the dog, but I like just the trumpets with the musical notes and just real simple, clean look. Brian Elliott redid it very nicely.
See, when I think of Cujo, that's the mask I think of, because that's when he, which is also why I hate it, because he was a Hawks killer when he wore that thing. But it's a beautiful mask. It's definitely a great one.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
Those two from our modern era, I would have to say those two. But there were very few that I didn't love.
Yeah, so exactly. I had the conversation with my high school art teacher, and because every single project I did, I incorporated some kind of goalie mask into it. And she's like, enough is enough. It's like, no, you need to look at these things. Like, they are works of art. And I got her to come around, and she's like, okay, I'll allow it. So
awesome.
Yeah, they're crazy. What's your favorite rink that you've played at?
Oh man. Can I say Busch Stadium?
Yeah.
Not a rink, but
I mean,
it was when I was there for 3 weeks. That's
I,
got to be the coolest.
I wouldn't go with a dump like that, but you can.
Hey, if we get to skate at Wrigley, that'd be
Yeah.
pretty sweet too.
Yeah, I actually had tickets to the Winter Classic there. Crazy story. So my dad was a season ticket holder for the Hawks at that point. So he could have gotten tickets, but he split them with a buddy of his.
Okay.
And so they made an agreement. His buddy was going to get their Winter Classic tickets because he was taking his daughter. And they came out and they said, we're releasing so many more tickets. So I'm up here in Minnesota. My dad's in Chicago and the neighbor is in Chicago, all trying to get into the virtual waiting room for Ticketmaster because all three of us wanted tickets. They couldn't get in because there were so many people from Chicago IP addresses getting in. I got in 3 times and got 3 different single tickets because we said, we don't have to sit together. We don't care. So I got 3 tickets and I was going to go, but it was going to be the first New Year's in 2 years that my wife wasn't pregnant because our kids are 15 months apart. And she's like, you're going to go into Chicago on New Year's? Really? And I was like, okay. So I sold my ticket at face value. I was able to get my money back. But we had the understanding during the game, I was to be left alone. I was downstairs watching it on the TV. Now my son, he was just a little guy at the time. He was a baby and he didn't leave me alone. He wanted to be held and rocked and everything. So I had him in the baby Bjorn, bouncing back and forth, watching the game. But yeah, that would have been an awesome place to play at for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool rinks playing down at Kiel Center, then Savas Center, Scott Trade, now Enterprise. That's always pretty cool. It just, you look up, it has that NHL look and feel because it's an NHL arena.
Yep.
But, that echo, because it's, obviously it wasn't full when I played there.
And the heat
like,
from
echo,
the lights.
Yeah, the lights. Just, that anytime you're in an NHL arena, it feels really cool.
Yeah.
For a guy who doesn't play in NHL.
Yeah.
So.
Well, even last year I skated at Mariucci Arena at the University of Minnesota, and that's a pretty cool barn to skate in too.
Yes. I've never skated there, but I've been there, and it's beautiful. Yost as well. I got to skate there a bunch. That was really cool.
Yeah. All right. Moving along. What's your favorite stick that you've ever used?
Ever or growing up?
I would say ever.
Ever. The composite sticks are just now, like I like those now. The ones I've been using the last couple of years, they're super nice. But when I think all time, there's one stick that I actually used for a really long period in my playing career, and I would say that'd be the Sherwood 9950s foam core. When the foam core first came out, I love the balance feel. It was light, but it still had a little bit of weight to it.
Yep.
And you didn't get any stingers because the foam absorbed it, and I just loved it. And so I used those for I don't even know, a good 5-7 years. And as a full ride goalie, I was so limited on what I could find that those Sherwood 9950s, for whatever reason, they had those in a heel curve. It's like they knew I'd buy them, but I go to the store and they were there. I had to have been the only kid buying them, but I love those things. So probably those, even though the composites now are incredible.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that loved those Sherwood sticks. I was a Christian guy. I loved the Christian sticks. But my favorite stick is still the Cooper Bauer, depending on what year you bought it, the Reactor 5. I just loved that stick. That was a great one.
I love that whole line. I had the pads, and I didn't get them until like junior year of high school, and they're pads I wanted for a really long time. They're Coopers.
Belfour's look with the black and white. I mean, that's on my phone case. I
had those in all white, and they look pretty sharp.
That Belfour setup is my all-time favorite looking setup. Like if I had the money to get the Bauer Digiprint, that's what I would do, is that Belfour look. That you're right. That line, I think every goalie from that era, like there's a special place in their heart for that line because so many goalies wore it.
Oh, yeah. Go for it. Hobby bowling. Yeah, a ton.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So in fact, I was talking to Kelly Rudy and I mentioned that was my favorite stick. He's like, I use that stick and I wore that stuff for a while too.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Um,
Good stuff. It's awesome.
so what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Shoot. I'm really fortunate. I just had like 4 or 5 shoot through my brain, and they all involve tournaments, winning
Yeah.
tournaments. Really, so won silver sticks as a kid.
Oh, that's a good
And,
tournament.
there's this one tournament we were in one time in Peoria, Illinois. So it's sort of near
Yep.
you, that called the Snowball Shootout, and we ended up winning in a shootout and on a snowy day, which is just kind of like cheesy coincidence, but something I'll never forget. And being the goalie who gets piled on at the end it's one of the best feelings ever. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
just anytime winning like a tournament or winning a shootout was always really cool.
Yep. Absolutely. What's the best chirp you've heard?
I've heard a lot of good ones, but one I've gotten lately, I made like a really lucky save, like one of those saves where like it just hit hard, and I kind of laughed because I was like, you beat me, just lucky save, and the guy skates by and he goes deadpan, he goes, you gotta put that in your YouTube videos, and like he probably wasn't much of a fan, but I thought it was hilarious. I laughed. I mean, I don't think he laughed. I think he was frustrated at the time, but I thought it was pretty good chirp.
That's great. Yeah. I put the camera up behind my net and do some of my highlights. And it's funny because now my teammates after games would be like, that one going in the video. And one of our first games of the season, we got a fellow on our team, junior, and he never played organized hockey. If anybody came out to the rink, they would look at him and say, oh, he's an ankle bender. But you know what he has is hockey smarts. He's one of my favorite defensemen to have on the ice because he might not look pretty out there, but he makes the right decisions on odd man rushes and covering his guy in front of the net. Well, we're down by a goal late in the game, so I'm pulled. It's off the face-off, and puck's coming right to him. He makes some kind of goofy transition, falls flat on his backside. The other guy just gets the puck, skates it down for the easy empty net goal. And I usually don't put those things in the videos, but we get to the locker room. He goes, "I hope that's going in the next one." And I don't share the links and stuff with my teammates usually, but when I edited that one and uploaded it, yeah, that one went out to the team, and there were some good comments going back and forth.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. And to make matters better, he's one of the local fire chiefs. So
That's awesome.
yeah. The team I play on is actually mostly firemen from the community, and we got quite a few chiefs on the team. So that's kind of fun. And I'm not on the job, but my dad was in Chicago for close to 30 years. So they said I fit in. I've probably seen more than they have as volunteers.
That's really cool though. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a like Guns and Hoses game here in St. Louis, and I randomly have skated a couple times with the guys who are primarily firemen. But yeah, it's such a very noble profession. So
cool stuff. That's actually how I got to skate at Mariucci Arena. They were having a first responder night last year, and they were playing Ohio State, but they wanted to have, just give the fire and police a chance to play a scrimmage early on. It wasn't very well organized because I got a note from the guys like, "Hey, are you available to skate tomorrow at Mariucci?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "We may or may not need you. We don't know. It's a fire police game." I was like, "Hey, that's fine. I'll bring my stuff. If you guys got enough, goalies, totally understand." They're like, "But you fit in too. Like you're kind of you're in the brotherhood per se because of the family ties." It's like, "Yeah, that works." We showed up. There were 3 cops there. So it wound up being 4-on-4. We just split things up and had some fun, but we had 3 goalies. So we just did a nice little rotation, which was fun, but it was, that's how I got to skate there, was because of those guys.
So cool. Yeah, it's awesome. Just any way you can get in there and skate at a place like that, especially when it's, for a good cause or with good people.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with cops, it was fun. We got one poor fellow on our team. He's a cop, and yeah, there's some chirps that go back and forth with him.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah,
I don't want to keep tickets.
the biggest one is, oh, you weren't smart enough to pass the fire exam. So what is the worst post-game beer you've had?
I don't know. They're all so good, especially after you win. They all taste good.
Yeah.
Our go-to is Select, usually, which is only it's a Budweiser beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's only available in the St. Louis area, which if it was available elsewhere, it would really do well. It's delicious, and it's great after. It's kind of like a Bud Light Budweiser, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think anything heavy after a skate is not good to me. That's probably why I like light beers and lagers and more golden ales and things like that. Like IPAs and anything heavy, I can't do after a skate. So probably anytime I've tried that, like a stout or something, I'm just like, okay, this isn't for me. Because I'm so dehydrated too.
Yeah.
After you play goalie, you sweat a lot. So
we have a brewery up here, Summit. They put together a sampler, and there's I got to think back. There's I think a lager in there. There's it's 4 different light beers, and they call it the penalty box. And whenever that comes out every year, that's what I bring for the boys, because it's just 4 good post game beers.
Nice.
They get it. They know they got to cater to the hockey crowd. When you tape your stick, heel to toe or toe to heel?
So I go heel to toe.
Okay. Most goalies do. It's always fun to hear the ones that don't, to find out why. Most of them don't even know why. I
used to go toe to heel, and it was just what I did. I didn't think anything of it. And then I just overheard a discussion, and I can't remember if I was 18 or 12, but I overheard a discussion about, no, it's heel to toe. Like everyone, and it seemed like 95% of everyone was on that same page. And I'm like, well, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's what, hockey players before us did. So I didn't say anything. I just kept my mouth shut. And the next time I tape my stick, I went heel to toe. I'm like, I guess that's how you do it. So
yeah. Now the next question, I know the answer, so I want to maybe understand why. I usually ask favorite number. I'm going to guess it's 38, but why 38? That's not a traditional goalie number by any means.
It's not. And I wanted to come up with a number. It rhymes with my name, Kane Van Gate, 38. So I always wanted to have like a non-traditional goalie number growing up, but it was usually 1 or 30 or 130 or 35 was all the only options you had. So that's always what I ended up wearing, usually 30. So once I got beer league, you can do anything you want. I could be 00 if I really wanted to. So finally I wanted to be a number in the 30s and upper 30s that wasn't a goalie number, and then I kind of wanted to make it my goalie number. And like I said, the whole rhyme thing kind of came into play. So
that's how it was for me when I got to college and my number was already taken by an upperclassman. I was like, uh-oh, what do I do now? Because I don't know why. I never liked wearing number 1. It felt like I didn't have anything on my back. I've always liked the double digit, and the biggest jersey we had in the cabinet was 39. In fact, our rink was connected to a field house, and we'd go out there and stretch, and we'd wear our jerseys, and most of the guys looked like they had a normal looking jersey on. I came out, I looked like a kid wearing my dad's hockey jersey. Right. They're like, Jesus criminy, you got a 12-person tent on there. It's like, look at all this extra space that's going to catch pucks, fellas. That's why I went with that one. But ever since then, if I had a chance, I've gone with 39.
Are you a Hasek fan?
Yeah, I was.
But that's not why.
I was a Belfour fan first and foremost, and started out with 30. And then right before high school started, a teammate of mine who was a defenseman who wore number 5 passed away, so I switched to 35. And I really liked that number, but then 39 was the only option, and I liked it because it was a little out there. Not as many goalies had it, and my game. Yeah. I think my game suits 39 better.
Nice. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, similar. I always wanted 29, but that was never an option. And then when I got older, that was actually a goalie number. And like I said,
Yeah.
I wanted a non-traditional, but still in the 30s kind of thing. So
why did you want 29?
Potvin.
Okay.
Lewis Potvin. And then, a lot of other goalies wore it, like
Yeah.
AC wore 29. There are a few other goalies who wore it, but I thought Felix Potvin, even though Toronto was a bit of a rival for St. Louis at that time, we played them in playoffs a lot, and obviously I was going for St. Louis when we did, but Potvin was my guy besides Joseph.
Yeah. Again, another guy that, because he had some phenomenal playoff series against the Hawks, I couldn't like him during his playing days. And like I know his helmet is awesome. It's one of the most replicated designs, in the beer leagues. And it's like, no, I would never get that on my mask. Never. It's just absolutely not.
There's kids I coach now. There's like a decal, which God, I wish that existed when we were kids. But you can just put a sticker on your goalie mask now. It looks like a paint job. It's so cool. But these kids have like Potvin ones, and it's like different, red and silver, black, and these different color combos. And I'll comment on it. I'm like, oh, that Potvin mask is awesome. And they're like, thanks. And I can tell. I'm like, you don't know who Felix Potvin is, do you? Like, no. I'm like, okay, well, by the way, he's a legend, and you're wearing his mask, so you should probably go on Google and look up Felix Potvin, and next time I see you, tell me 4 facts about him, and skate away. But
kids don't seem to know the history of the game like we did growing up. It just felt like when we were growing
kids
up,
don't watch the game, which blows my mind.
Yeah, it seemed like when we were growing up, kids watched the games as much as they could because they weren't on as much.
Exactly.
Especially in Chicago, we didn't have home games on TV, but they don't know about goalies even 10 years ago. It's like I was talking to one of the little goalies in my neighborhood, and it's like, do you know who Kelly Rudy is? He's like, never heard of him. I was like, what? So I had to educate him. So
we at Great Scene Goalie Academy were constantly quizzing kids, and not actually, but like sort of jokingly shaming them when they don't know their history. And then Bruce also gives the kids homework every night when he does camps. So they have to do something. It's not like it's super time consuming. It's usually art related, but it all involves goalie history or hockey history in some capacity. Because it's like you said, not everyone is doing that. It's crazy. But
I think
they just have so much else going on. I don't know.
Especially with the way the game has evolved, if you understand, how it was played even 15, 20 years ago to where it is now, you understand some of the movements. I mean, Tony Esposito.
That's a good point.
Tony Esposito with coming out, well, technically Glenn Hall starting the butterfly, but Esposito revolutionizing it. And then when we were playing, it was like, that was the thing. But we understood where it came from. The evolution. So last question. What advice do you have for young goaltenders?
Well, tying in with what we were just talking about, know the game, know your history for sure. Circling back to a little bit ago, if you work with a goalie coach or anyone who's knowledgeable, soak in the knowledge. Don't just go through the motions. Like, think about it on the drive home before you go to bed. Take notes, write it down. Just think about it and apply it to your game. That's how you get better. And on that note, don't ever take a minute off. If you have a practice, take breaks if you need a water break or a breather. Yeah, sure. But I just mean, don't ever go through the motions in practice. If you want to get better, if you want to reach your max potential, you got to put in the work every opportunity you get. And, even on those days where you don't really feel like it, you just got to push through. And in the end, it'll always be worth it every time. So it's a lot of hard work being a goalie. Like, kids don't realize how hard it is. It's really difficult, but if you have the drive and the passion, it doesn't feel like work at all.
Well, and to build off of that too, don't be afraid to ask your goalie coach questions either. I think there's a lot of kids where they might not understand why you're telling them to do something. And it's okay to ask, why am I doing that?
You don't want them to not ask the question, think it in their head and just do the drill anyways, right?
I've talked to some of the goalies I used to coach still today, and they'll still ask me questions like, why did you have me do that? And I'm like, why didn't you ask me back then why I had you do that?
Yeah.
You'd be a better beer league goalie today if you knew the answers.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, well, Kane, we went over time, but I wholeheartedly appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for making the movie. It's been awesome watching it. In fact, while I'm thinking of it, have you heard of the For the Love of Puck project?
No,
they are. You'll have to check them out. They're from up here. They are making. I'm not going to say a similar movie, but it's kind of the whole idea of just beer league hockey and how we play because we love the game. And so of what I saw come out in your movie is what they're trying to capture with other folks.
Love story, right?
Yeah. In fact, I skate with Kaz, the guy that's kind of spearheading it whenever he gets ice. In fact, we'll probably be getting a few ice times across the river in Wisconsin here now that we can't skate in Minnesota. So you'll have to check them out. And next time I talk to Kaz, I got to make sure he knows about you.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. I mean, I think the more the merrier as far as content goes, as far as movies go. I think, whether it's beer league or youth hockey or professional or anything else, I think the more the merrier. So
yeah, they put a team together last year and went to, I think it was Austria and Germany and played. Nice. It was kind of like a sightseeing trip with hockey built in, and they shot some content. They've been out to California to talk to some folks out there and whatnot. So it's been fun to watch them and see where it's going. And then I think it was in January, they held an outdoor tournament at one of the parks here in the Twin Cities that has 2 sheets of ice, basically an oval around them, and then an area for just plain old pond hockey and another one for open skate. They flood the whole park, but they put boards up and they have a Zamboni and everything. And that was an awesome tournament. And because it was at a park, we couldn't have adult beverages there. So me and one of the other goalies walked down the street in full equipment to the bar and walked in the bar in full equipment for a beer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish I had footage of that. That'd blow up. Yeah.
They took footage. I haven't seen any, but I did post a picture of it on my Instagram feed. In fact, while we were waiting for them to come down with the cameras, before we went in, we sat on a bus bench at an intersection, just sitting there in full goalie equipment. And it had to have been a hockey mom, stops in the middle of the intersection, driving a minivan, rolls her window down, and she goes, "Do you guys need to get to a practice or something? Do you need a ride?" And we're like, no, we're just waiting to go into the bar. It's all good. Yeah.
Bless her heart. That's
it was probably the most hockey mom Minnesotan thing that could have happened at that moment. So, perfect. Well, Kane, thank you again. I appreciate it. It's been great. I know we'll probably talk again.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me. Big fan. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to listening to this and some more episodes.
Kane and I could have kept talking a lot longer, but he had Christmas decorating to get back to, and I had a backyard rink to tend to. I know when he makes his way back to Minnesota, we'll be getting together and hopefully getting a skate in where we can compare our pad stacks and old school skate saves. You can find KVG on social media simply by searching his name. It'll pop up. Or you can click the links in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Washed Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights once we're allowed back in the rinks here in Minnesota, and all podcast episodes. If you want some Washed Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to click the shop link on my website. I need to give a big thank you to the hockey band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream your music from. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to on future episodes. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you have a brand and you want to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me and we can work something out. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Well, you wait your whole life, following a team that just might. And you wait, you wait, and you wait, you wait, and you wait, you wait. And when some seasons begin,